members and Reverend J.C. Jackson, among others. How should these bodies be supported by the diaspora communities and the government of Ethiopia?
This is one of my favorite subjects, Tafari. This is, allow me to go back to history. When Ethiopia was invaded by fascist Mussolini 85 years ago, the world laughed at us. We did not have any friends. Even the League of Nations, when Emperor Haile Selassie went into the League of Nations, they mocked him. We didn't have any friends in the world except African Americans. They rallied in Washington, D.C. and the street of New York. They actually attacked even businesses that was owned by Italians in New York. And then they had a booth that will have people who are willing to register to go to Ethiopia and fight for Ethiopia. There are pictures, people can Google them out and see it. In fact, on the celebration of Adwa just a couple of weeks ago, when we honored Reverend J.C. Jackson, I presented the whole pictorial of photographs of Black Americans, African Americans signing up for Ethiopia, because Ethiopia is revered as a beacon of freedom for Black people all over the world. And it shows that here in America in particular. And let's not also forget that during the civil rights movement, see, I came to this country 45 years ago, my friend. If it wasn't for civil rights movement that changed the law of immigration and demanded that people from Africa should be allowed to come. Prior to that, 96% of the immigration quota was only for Europeans. So who changed that? It's the African Americans. It is from their blood, their struggle, and their freedom that we had the opportunity even to put our foot in America. So, you know, fast forward to the present, and what do you find? When GERD issue came up last year, and Trump was twisting our arms for us to literally surrender our sovereignty, who came to our defense? Again, the African Americans. It started out with the NAACP, which is basically, it's one of the largest African American civic organization that is over 100 years old, which all of them followed. They came in our defense and put into their annual resolution and defending Ethiopia's right to develop its natural resource. Then followed the Reverend J.C. Jackson, which articulated our right again. And to be honest with you, he articulated better than any Ethiopians, anyone, including myself, could ever be able to write. And it is so powerful that the Egyptian government had to send him an 11-page repudiation for writing that powerful letter. And with that letter, he asked the Congressional Black Caucus to come to Ethiopia's defense. 52 congressional Black leaders and senators signed a letter in defending Ethiopia. This is the history that we find ourselves in. They look at us still at all, believe that Ethiopia is just a rare find, and without it, they believe they will never be free, that even the civil rights movement itself would not have come about if it was not for Ethiopia. It's amazing how they look at us, at how they defend Ethiopia. So today, even with all the crises that we find, including even the internal turmoil we have, the undue pressure that is coming from United States and Europe, we are still talking with Reverend Jesse Jackson, the NAACP, and the Congressional Black Caucus to come to our defense. Because this is an assault on a sovereign nation, a Black African nation, that it is now they are putting pressure so that they can literally get away with what they have done to the rest of Africa. And we're hoping that in the next few weeks, some resolutions and some stands are going to be public. We hope that that is going to go. By the way, even the current administration, the Biden administration, guess how they got to power? They got to power because of African Americans. They are the one who carried them to the White House. They're the one who took them to the Senate. Okay, so in the Democratic Party itself, African Americans have never been as strong as they are today because of what they have been able to achieve in the last election. And we are curtailing the African American political capital because they see us and we see them as inseparable, united against the common, push to really make us irrelevant in the political arena.
In this regard, what have their roles been like so far in getting the United States of America and the whole world at large, for that matter, in getting them to be fair toward Ethiopia in its internal affairs and also its huge or mega projects, including the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam and the like?
The way we have developed the narrative, what we see in the internal even conflict itself, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam are all together a single story. They're all interconnected. It is not a surprise that we have what we have in terms of the internal conflict and turmoil that we're facing today, if it was not for the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Our historical enemies, they find that this is the perfect storm season to put as much pressure on Ethiopia, to destabilize Ethiopia, to weaken Ethiopia, because the Grand Ethiopian Dam is not just a regular dam. It is a dam that will potentially can take Ethiopia out of the designation of a donor recipient nation to a second economic world. And they know that. So this is a far-reaching impact. One of the things that most people talk about, don't talk as much, there is a dam in the next state that from where I live, called the Hoover Dam. And the Hoover Dam, before the Hoover Dam, United States was building many small dams every week, every month. They have hundreds and hundreds of these dams. But the Hoover Dam, it became the final dam that really empowered the United States industrial machines. So much so, 15 years after the dam was completed, the Second World War was launched and the United States got involved in it. Many historians write that the United States would not have been able to win the Second World War if it wasn't for the Hoover Dam. It is that fundamental, even for a great power like United States. So you can just imagine how powerful, what it means for a nation like Ethiopia, that throughout history, that we gave away all our natural resources. 80% of our water leaves our boundary, our borders. And we don't mind our neighbors to have, equitable water share, but Ethiopia has been always the one that donates her natural resources, only to come back out into the international world and for ask for economic aid and help. This has to change. And I'll tell you this, that they know, the Europeans and the United States know, that if Ethiopia is successful in completing this dam, within a generation, and particularly in your generation, you're going to see a country that you couldn't even recognize when you were young. It is that drastic. It is that fundamental. Nations that control the energy source are the ones that economically are guaranteed to grow. And after for centuries later, that Ethiopia finally is embarking. So what does that mean to our historical enemies? They're saying they're not going to sit down and take this. So they will put every pressure, and they're going to do every threat, and they're going to fund every group to destabilize Ethiopia and to put pressure from outside, from Ethiopia. Because once this dam is complete and it is filled, and that it starts to generate that full power that we expect it to generate, game over. Game over for our historical enemies. And it's also game over for these nations that seems to give us carrots only to bring the stick behind it. And that is the fundamental equation that we find ourselves. So when we discuss this among our friends, like Jesse Jackson, we connect these themes together. That it is not an accident that we find Ethiopia finds this tremendous pressure, that we're in this pressure cooker for a reason, because we dared to start and complete the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. And they know the result of it. Our foes understand it, and our friends as well understand it. So it's a question of having to create the narrative to truly speak what Ethiopia is embarking at this time of her history.
Now, the Ethiopian government has appreciated the efforts that you guys have been doing. And this obviously, Deacon, calls for stronger diplomatic work on the part of the government to shore up similar rules so that such endeavors will continue in the future. In this regard, what's your advice to the government of Ethiopia?
One of the things that I really advise is that Ethiopia needs to understand that there is worldwide, I don't know what the census is. They have probably better numbers than I do, but it's in the millions. The low numbers, maybe a couple of millions, 2 or 3 million Ethiopians that are outside Ethiopia's boundaries. We are known as the diaspora Ethiopians. We are, in fact, an asset for Ethiopia. One of the primary examples that I want to give you is Israel. Israel, the majority, in Israel's case, the majority of Jews live outside of Israel. But however, really, Israel of what you know today would not have existed without the diaspora Jews, would not have survived. Ethiopia we're not at that level. However, the last 40 years and 50 years of exodus from Ethiopia, Ethiopians in general are very, very successful diaspora members. In fact, we're probably with the top 3 most successful diaspora, starting a business, buying a home, graduating from school, settling down, even sending money, remittance back to their native country. We are on the top 3. Now we are becoming politically very, very active. Ethiopia needs to understand us as we are a continued constituent of Ethiopia, and that Ethiopia needs to have a wherewithal how to harvest it. We're like seeds that are sown around the world, but somebody needs to come to harvest it. And that's the role of the government. And Israel utilized that extremely well. And we really urge that, particularly with the reform process and the fact that the government at this point has got a very favorable rating because of its defense of our national integrity, territorial integrity, our sovereignty. We call it in Amharic, Yahagar Helina, Heluna. Having to have a 30 years of questionable state transforming itself into a custodian of people that truly stands for the interest of the Ethiopia. And what, they did not surrender during the negotiation. Most people may not know this, that the government, the United States, when they pushed themselves into trying to say that they want to broker on the dam dispute, they put forth a possible a grant financial contribution to Ethiopia if Ethiopia were to surrender its sovereignty. I raise my hat to our negotiator. I raise my hat to our prime minister. They walked away. And it is that type of stance that has turned the entire diaspora in believing we have a political custodians today, leadership that truly stands for the interest of Ethiopia. And they are willing to go to the extent, and the demonstration that you saw was just a small example. I told you we put out a petition where 220,000 Ethiopians signed on a single petition, defending Ethiopia's right, defending the government's action. You see, so what we have to do, because both of us are new to this. We as diaspora, we stood always throughout most of our history as an opposite to the government at the time that was governing the country, okay? From the Ethiopian government side, they have always looked at the diaspora suspiciously, so they don't have the mechanism and know-how how to reach out to the diaspora and make that breach so that they can harvest the asset they have outside of their boundary. That is truly my message and advice. I know Deputy Prime Minister sent out a very beautiful message thanking the Ethiopian diasporas, and he said how proud it has made Ethiopians in Ethiopia, seeing so many of Ethiopians everywhere around the world, Geneva, Canada, the United States, and this continues. There was one very vibrant one just yesterday in Las Vegas. So this is what Ethiopia will continue to have. It is a matter of just truly putting assets investment and how to truly harvest the asset it has with the Ethiopian diaspora.
What are your future plans like, be it in bringing together Ethiopians in the areas of their national interests, despite looming challenges, lingering challenges in their country and abroad?
One of the things that Ethio-American Civic Council, it's the organization that I chair, we have introduced essentially a political platform we really think it's Ethiopia really need to consider. And we're doing it mostly within Ethiopia to be heard and the dialogue to continue, but also here in diaspora. And that is this. Ethiopia needs to graduate and get out of ethnic political platform. It is disastrous. No nation in the world has ever been successful with it. It has cost millions and millions of lives to a tune of over 50 million human lives were lost on ethnic political platforms. Start in China, Russia, Germany, Rwanda, you name it. Countries after countries have tried it and failed. And so what did they do with it? They outlawed it. They made it a part of their constitution that you cannot have a political institution or a political party based on the way individuals are born, in the way that ethnic identity or a natural identity of an individual. It has to be a political thought, just like anywhere. And hear me out for a second. And if that is a thought that came because of grievance, let's say, because some of us believe that we were mistreated and that we have not gotten the resources that we need, I want to bring up the African American community. There is no one on this planet, on this earth, that it was suppressed, mistreated, and sold and bought like goods for over 400 years. No one has paid the price as being enslaved by an advanced society like United States. But in United States, the right and the equal rights movement and the civil rights movement was never based on ethnic politics. They did not do it as saying, since we are born Black, and since we suffered as Black, now we need to have a political party that is made only by Blacks. It would have gone nowhere. It would have led into bloodbath. The civil wars would have been much worse collateral than what the country has faced. Ethiopia cannot play with this fire anymore. We have tried it, okay? And what we saw in Tigray is exactly the last result of such a program that have been tried everywhere in the world and they've been outlawed everywhere in the world except Ethiopia. It is our turn to say, no more, you cannot make a political platform, a political administration, a regional zone based on ethnic identity or religious identity. Those two items need to be canceled out. If we don't do that, true freedom and democracy will never visit Ethiopia. It will be just a window dressing with good words that we put in until we actually dismantle the infrastructure of ethnic politics. And since we talk about this, it leads us in bringing Ethiopians of different ethnic groups in our platform here, is even in the diaspora. And I think that is, I really think the secret and the only way we can overcome this generational challenge that we have faced. And Ethiopia has to say, enough is enough.
Deacon Yoseph Tafari, thank you so much for your wonderful perspectives and for your time.
Thank you, Tashfara. God bless Ethiopia, and I hope to see you again.
Well, dear viewers, that was Deacon Yoseph Tafari talking to us in this edition of Addis Dialogue. Thank you so much for your company so far. Until I see you with another program, it's goodbye from me.